Torah Or, Megillah Esther, page Tzaddik, second column. 8 lines into the Maamar, and the second column. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe is explaining that the beginning of the Midas is Chochmah, but even Chochmah as an entity is only in the world of Bria, but in Atzilus it's only the source of Chochmah. We got way off yesterday with the Tzorach Halamish, with the various different things. Anyway, it says, so Torah is the level of Chochmah. But Moshe Rabbeinu is even higher than Torah, because Torah says, Chochmah ma'ayin timatzei, it comes from ayin, but it's not ayin. But Moshe Rabbeinu said, V'nachnu ma, which is a complete level of bittul, so Moshe Rabbeinu is even higher than the level of Torah. So then he starts explaining, the Rebbe is explaining, that from the infinite level of Elokus cannot come down, ilu v'olul, cause and effect, because cause and effect, the highest level of Chochmah, and the lowest level of Malchus, of Asiya, are all interconnected. But it can't come from Ilav Olis. He says like this, it's impossible that to come to the level of worlds, meaning identified distinct levels, from the infinite level of Hashem, like his name implies, but it was included. It can't come directly, but this level of world was included in the infinite level of Hashem as a potential to be able to create it. Like midas are part of seichel, because midas come from seichel. That means, what he's saying is as follows. When you have a father and mother, they give birth to a baby, okay? Before the baby was conceived, the parents are still the source of the baby. That means the baby is included in them potentially. But the actual power beforehand has nothing to do with the actual baby, because this is a definitive, identified, limited baby, and the other end, the potential is unlimited. The what?
The male of the child?
Yeah, if you ever learn Perek Beis of Tanya, that's what he talks about there. There's no question the midas were part of the seichel before they were revealed. Then they become midas mugashet b'fnei atzmam. Then they become tangible midas. But when they're still part of the seichel, I mean before seichel stimulated the midas, in elis b'shem midas klal, then they're not called midas at all. In other words, before you give birth to emotions, the emotions are part of the intellect, because the intellect creates them. But they're not midas there. Over there it's only seichel. When does it become midas? When it's supposed to speak, leaves seichel, and now becomes a stimulated feeling. The same thing, this level, when is it called Chochmah? When it leaves from the concealed to the revealed. For instance, Chochmah ma'ayin timatzei. Right? So when does Chochmah become Chochmah? When it leaves the timatzei, when it leaves its source. But in the source, it's like yesh mi'ayin. There's no feeling, there's no intellect. And this revelation, from the concealed to the revealed, is not considered in the chain of the worlds. And therefore he says like this. It's not as hard as it sounds, by the way. The 10 spheres are limited. Even Chochmah of Atzilus, which is the potential of Chochmah, as it says in a different Maamar, even that level is a tangible potential.
Is that Moshe Rabbeinu's level?
Moshe Rabbeinu is higher than Atzilus. Min Amayim Mishisihu, from Alma Diskasia, from the hidden worlds, which is even higher than the revealed words of Atzilus and and Shtalshlis. Okay?
But you're still a human being, though.
Yeah, very much so.
No, I'm saying, how do you have the both? That's what I'm saying. How would you have Hashem issues?
How could a neshama, which is a part of Hashem, come into a low life body?
Contractions, whatever.
Okay, concealed. Anyway, let's get to what he's saying here. So, Chochma Ma'ayin Timotzi, the Rebbe explains that yes, Chochma, Peit Tzadik. The Chochma is in the source, but over there it's only the source. It's not similar to what Alter Rebbe explains in Shaykh of Amunah. The ray of the sun in the sun exists, but over there it's only the sun. There's no ray in the sun. In the sun is only the sun. Hainu ma'odas b'chinas sever kol almin. Mikosh ken liyas esavis miyayin liyash gashmiyas. And definitely, in order to create physical yesh miyayin, now, there's no question that the potential of creating yesh mi'ayin exists in Hashem. But over there, it's not a tangible thing yet. It doesn't become something yet. You can't create, or it is simpler English, you can't create finite by just limiting infinite. Because you can't cut infinite in a half or a millionth and it's still infinite. You still can't create something finite. Okay? Gashmis can come from Ruchnis in a way of cause and effect. Because no matter how much down cause and effect you go, it's still Ruchnis, it's still spiritual. In order to create Gashmis, it has to be Yesh Mi'ayin. No. It's higher than Ishtalshlis. That's what he's saying here. Kim kol ma shenefesh habamis he nimshach. Okay, so he says like this because the nefesh habamis comes in the level of shor of the merkava. What's the spiritual source in kedusha of the nefesh habamis? So it says the source of the nefesh habamis comes from shor. Okay, the birds come from the level of nesher. Everything comes from kedusha, right? The chayas, the beasts, come from the aryeh of the merkava. The animals, domestic animals, come from the short of the Merkava. The birds come from the level of Nesher, the eagle of the Merkava. The nefesh habamis sheba adam, hainu b'chinas nefesh yiruchnias v'chayis. Even the nefesh habamis, he says, is also ruchnias. It comes from the short of the Merkava, which is ruchnias. Avol gufa gashmi shebed shel adam beim al chayis v'efis le'nisava meruchnias klal. Ruchnis cannot create Gashmias. Okay? Because as much as you're going to cut down, contract, limit, conceal, whatever, Ruchnis is still going to be Ruchnis. So where is Gashmias? Al-Nathavas ha-Gashmi me'odev b'chinas ein sof. Baruch hu mamash ha-seviv kol almin. It comes in the level of seviv kol al, meaning. To put it into simple English, like we always say, in order to make yesh mi'ayin, okay, ayin itself cannot create a yesh, because ayin is nothing. If nothing is nothing, nothing cannot create something. It's logical. In order to create something from nothing, you have to come from a level which is higher than nothing and higher than something together. In other words, in order to create Gashmias, you need to come from a level which is higher than Ruchnias and Gashmias. Because again, they always ask the question, is Hashem spiritual or physical? So if you ask a guy that doesn't know Chassidus, they'll tell you Hashem is spiritual. I mean, it's no question, Hashem is spiritual. That's mamish incorrect for two reasons. If Hashem is spiritual, that's a limitation within itself, that he's not physical. So you're automatically limiting Hashem. Secondly, if he is spiritual, how could he create Gashmis? Then he can't create, if he can't create what you're not. So what's the simple answer? Hashem is above Gashmis. Hashem is above Ruchnias. Hashem is above miracle. He's above nature. Hashem is above or light. He's above darkness. By him, everything is the same. And therefore, if by Hashem, and that level, which by the way we can't get, we don't get it. We have a problem with the Ruchnias also. But to understand something which is higher than Gashmias, but that's a given, it must be. Logically, it can't be any other way. So therefore Hashem is above both, and therefore He can create Gashmias, and He can create Ruchnias, and not only that, He can combine Ruchnias and Gashmias, i.e., creating a living being, which is a soul, in a body, meaning spiritual and physical united. Therefore, look, we said a million times, as much as science and technology, whatever, will advance, they will never be able to create life. What they could do, they could take a stem cell, which is living already, and they can expand on it. But they cannot create that original stem cell because it's impossible for a human being, except through Torah mitzvahs, by the way. It's impossible for a human being to take Ruchnias and make it into Gashmias. Creating life by definition means you put Ruchnias and Gashmias together. It can't be any, a human being can't do it. The Chiddush of Matan Torah was, a Yid could take something physical and make it holy. That's only because Hashem at Matan Torah revealed Anechi, which is higher than everything together.
We have it in the Morale that say create the Golem.
Huh?
How did the Morale, the famous Morale,
The Maamar created the Golem through various different methods, but the Golem still was a Golem.
No, I'm saying, so did he create it from nothing, or he had something?
No, he took the whole story. Read the Golem book. I'll tell you the whole story how he created the Golem. Jews by call Yachol because Hashem is omnipotent. The darkness and light are the same. The Ruchni is the Gashmi Shavan, and the spiritual and physical are equal. From that level of godliness, to have a yesh v'davar, from that level of elokus, which is higher than both, it's able to create Gashmias and Ruchnias, to the extent it can even create a physical entity, the lowest of the lowest of this world. And that Seviv Kolalman, by definition, by the way, here the Alter Rebbe doesn't mean the regular level of Seviv, because that's also limited in Seviv, not Mamala. Here he's talking about a level which is ultimately higher than everything together. And therefore it's called, what? Atzmus. Therefore it's called Bria Yesh Mi'ayin. Therefore creation is called Yesh Mi'ayin. Because again, not Ruchniistic Yesh Mi'ayin, definitely not Gashmiistic Yesh Mi'ayin, can come through cause and effect. You can't take Ruchnius and make it Gashmius. Ela derech diluk is then then that level cannot address itself into the world Elahara Ba'alma, and that's Yesh Mi'ayin Mamish. And that's the concept of Yesh Mi'ayin, which means, therefore, because it comes from such a level which is higher than everything, that level cannot be revealed in the Gashmistic thing that you create. Because if that essential level of Hashem, that is above Gashmis, Ruchnis, all that, then the Yesh wouldn't be an entity by itself. It would be completely bottled to Elokus. If that level of Elokus, the essence of Hashem, would be revealed in the Gashmistic thing, then it would only be Elokus. So therefore, what is revealed in this Yesh Mi'ayin? A very limited, restricted, contracted, concealed level of Elokus.
So besides Simpson, something else Hashem did.
That's all Simpson.
I know, but he did something else. He created Gashmias.
Correct.
By concealing himself would not happen.
Correct. Concealing Ruchnius is not going to create Gashmias, or create concealed Ruchnius. But again, Ruchnius and Gashmias have no connection, they're opposites. So, Yesh Mi'ayin has to come from a level of Atzmos, which is, like he says, above Gashmis, above Ruchnis, above dark, above light, above miracle, above nature, all that stuff. And that level has no problem doing anything. Like, about Monday night, the Makabad in Enam in Amida, the Orden didn't take up any place, right? That's not the pshat, a miracle of above place. The Orden not taking any place is place made placeless. In other words, it's not the pshat that Hashem broke nature, he made something non-dimensional. There are dimensions. The room was 20, the Aron was 2.5 amas wide. From one end of the Aron to the room was 10, the other end was 10, so it should have been 22.5, and the room was 20. That's in place. But you have the same thing in time. In Tillim it says, Va'atu u'shneisach lo yitamu. Right? Right before the Baruch Nafshi is over there. Va'atu, you are who you are. U'shneisach, your years, lo yitamu, never end. That means your time, infinite, means it's infinite, never ends, right? So that means your time is timeless. Now, in order to have, the Rashba says this, in order to have timeless time and placeless place, it can't come from something which is placeless or place, or timeless or time. Because if you're timeless, you can't make time. If you're placeless, you can't make place. So how does placeless become place and timeless become time? From a level which is above timeless, above time, above place, above placeless, so to speak, and therefore it can combine both things together. And what's unique about all this is, when a Jew does a little tiny mitzvah, this is what the level they connect to. So therefore, as we said many times, in the non-Chassidic world, they're into Gan Edens. You know, I'm going to go get the Gan Eden, Gan Eden, Gan Eden. But Chassidim, Gan Eden's a joke. What do I need? A ray of the Shekhinah of some Bria or Yetzirah. You do a mitzvah here and now, it's Chai mitzvah. You're connecting yourself to a level of Elokus. It's not a ray of the Shekhinah. It's a very limited ray of the Shekhinah. There you're connecting yourself to placeless place and timeless time. So, like, who's interested in Gan Eden? Yeah, nice place for the weather, I'm sure it's nice there. But it's not the Iker. The Iker is Dira B'Tachtein. Right. What? Okay. So he says,
I was going to say that accordingly, Hashem created the world with such a level, and we should all be able to, we should all be connected to this concept of...
you could be connected to timeless time and placeless place. When you do a mitzvah, that mitzvah connects to Atzmus. Kol ha-mitzvahs misyachsim elo Atzmus. When a Jew does a mitzvah, that's the level of Elokus that he's connected to. The issue with that is, it's not felt or sensed or revealed until Mashiach. But Tchias HaMeisim, that level of placeless place, timeless time, and the connection to that level of Atzmus will be revealed. And that is dependent, as Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Toli b'ma'aseinu v'avedaseinu b'meshach kol zman ha'golus. It's connected to the time of Aved, of Golus.
So if it's about time and Zman and Makom, why is it waiting for Mashiach? It should be revealed now.
Because we're not a keli for it. Because we are very physical. Tzaddikim probably do feel it better.
They're already there.
Would it be wrong to say that that it doesn't make a different effect in the world today, even if we're not noticing? But
It does affect.
the miracles that we have.
No, it definitely affects the world. the world becomes holier. And even by the person, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, mitzvah gereres mitzvah, v'avera gereres avera. One mitzvah stops another mitzvah, one avera stops another avera, right? Why? Because I did a mitzvah, why in the world should that have to be able to schlep another mitzvah for me to do? It's very simple. A person does a mitzvah, he becomes holier. If you become holier, it's easy to do another holy thing. If you do an avera, you become corrupt. If you're corrupt, then you could do another corruption. Because you're on a lower level. You're on a lower level, you can keep,
How was a woman given the ability to have a child without a womb?
Without a womb?
So therefore, we do have a clue.
When there was a woman that had a baby without a womb. Sorry, Meinu. No.
So we do have a clue.
You have a kli. You have a kli. A womb is a kli for a baby, yeah? But nature is also a lukus. Who made that a womb is a keli for a baby? Hashem made it. Like when Rabbi Chanina ben Deisa was poor, and his daughter, by mistake, lit Shabbos candles with vinegar. Yeah, lit vinegar. And she came in before Shabbos, she said, Abba, whatever, I lit with vinegar. Yeah? So Rabbi Chanina ben Deisa say, Mi shama l'shama v'yadik, yem elochem etz v'yadik. The same God that said oil has the
Texture.
whatever it is. The what? No, there's a different one. Anyway, properties of burning. So the same God will make vinegar burnt. That's not stam. It's cute. But what he did over here, he didn't make the vinegar into oil.
So
What he did was vinegar as vinegar, which normally doesn't burn, was able to burn. Now, how could that happen? He tapped into a level to sort. It's not stam a cute star game made a miracle. It's a very deep concept what he did. He didn't make it into oil. What?
Does that mean that vinegar has a source in fire?
There's a source in vinegar that is rooted in Elokus, which is higher than both together.
how did he reach that level to make the vinegar?
Because Rabbi Chanina ben Deisa was nothing personal. Was not like me and you. He was.
So you just answered that he reached a level that's higher than anything.
Yeah.
Vinegar
Yeah.
will make a difference.
There are these levels. You have, how many stories are there of doctors swearing that nature, the woman cannot have a baby? And they had, they got brachas from tzaddikim, they had a baby, or whatever it is. Because controlling nature, in fact, like it says, we mentioned this many times, in the time of the Alter Rebbe, in Yiddish there's an expression, it's gewalget nisim unter den Tisch, aber kein sich nicht eingebängt zu aufheben. It says in the time of the Alter Rebbe's miracles were rolling under the tables, but nobody bothered to bend down to pick them up. Okay? In other words, in order to do a miracle, like the explanation of the story is, in order to do a miracle, you have to be one tefach, one handbreadth higher than the world. If you're a little bit higher than nature, then you could do miracles. It's not a big deal. They said, Chabad Chassidus is a lef chochma, lef bina, 2,000 amis of chochma and bina, that's infinitely greater than the little tefach that you have to be above world. That's why in Chabad Chassidus, the real Chabad Chassidus, not today, what goes on, people didn't care about miracles. So a Rebbe did a miracle. That's what a Rebbe is, to do miracles. He's infinitely greater than able to do miracles. What's the big deal of miracles? You're a little bit higher than the world, you do a miracle. It's a whole different world. It's not miracles. It says when the Rabbeim needed to do miracles, either to inspire somebody, whatever it was, so they also did that.
But sometimes there's a need for it.
Yeah, when there's a need for a miracle, that means a need to inspire whatever it may be. So then they would do miracles, but it wasn't their thing to do miracles. What's the purpose? Like, the Gemara says, Hashem doesn't do miracles for no reason. Hashem doesn't just throw out miracles. Because nature itself is a creation of Hashem. Hashem created nature. And by the way, the Rishonim write that what is a miracle? What is nature? What is a miracle? Nature in a continuous form. In other words, if you think about it, the birth of a baby is an unbelievable miracle. Think about it. The sun coming up in the east and blinding me now, and setting in the west, if you think about it, is a miracle. Now, what happens if Hashem would put it in reverse one day? Just put the gear into reverse, and the sun will come up in the west and set in the east. Do you know what's going to happen here? Huh? Be a panic attack. What's the big difference? East, west, west, east. We have cars also. Even if you don't have a Tesla, you have a simple car. You put the car in reverse, it goes, usually, unless you have a Chabad car, it goes back. It goes in reverse. What's the big deal? The birth of a baby, anybody that knows how many, God forbid, things that can go wrong, right? God forbid. And the fact that a baby is born yesh mi'ayin, your mamish yesh mi'ayin, in Gashmis at least, it's an unbelievable miracle. So why don't people, because it's constant. A constant miracle, that's what it says, a constant miracle is called nature. Put a seed in the ground, it rots, or it correctly is called germinates, and out comes a big tree. It's not a miracle. It's an unbelievable miracle. You're early. Hello. It's an unbelievable miracle.
The frequency of the events make
the frequency of miracle is called nature.
Why is the birth of the baby Yeshmai?
Why is it? It's not real Yeshmai, but the two Gashmistic examples of Yeshmai in the physical world is you take a seed, okay, it germinates, it rots, and out comes a tree. It's basically yes, there's still a seed there, but relatively speaking, taking a seed that rots in the ground and then comes a tree, that's Yeshmiyayin. From the seed, the tipa of the father that creates, a baby is Yeshmiyayin.
Is it the father that creates, or is it the person that plants that's creating?
No, Hashem creates. Hashem creates, but you have to make the
It's not
kedis.
something Yeshmai, it's just we're